computer. Awesome. Thanks so much for being here. I'm April Zajko, and I and my friend Suzette Salmon are here tonight to talk about mud kitchens. I want to not spend a lot of time on this intro, but I just want to say it's kind of like saying good day and cheers, and so we have this little muddy cheers to say hello. Let me see. I'm trying to screen share. Okay. And okay. Oh, okay. Karen, I see your message. I'll get back to you in just a second about that. And so a couple of questions that have been sent in to me that I just want to answer right off the top is, yes, you'll get a certificate of attendance. Yes, you will. If you're in Vermont, this will count for BFIS. I will submit it directly. And yes, you will get a copy of this recording. So we're recording tonight, and my aim is to send the link out by tomorrow night, by Tuesday night, to the recording of our session and to the document of the notes for the session. You do not need to put your BFIS number into the chat box because there's going to be a little form for you to fill out a little bit later. So don't feel like you need to don't put your BFIS numbers in the chat, because it'll be easier for me if you put them into a little survey a little later. So we're talking mud kitchens, and I want to, we're going to have a great night, and I'm super excited for you to see Sue's slideshow. She and I met on Thursday and just had a great 2-hour brainstorming session talking about all things mud kitchen. And many of you are here from Vermont, so we know that we're just getting done wrapping up our season of snow kitchens and moving into mud kitchens. So the flow of this evening, I'm going to share just a little bit of housekeeping and workshop details and some initial thoughts. Then I'm going to hand it over to my friend Sue. She's going to give us a photo tour and some tips for mud kitchens. And you'll get to see what her mud kitchens look like in her family childcare program. Hopefully around 6:30, and we're going to try to keep our things brief. So close to 6:30, maybe 6:35, we're going to move into breakout rooms. And during that time, we would like for you to have your camera and your microphone working so that it can be an interactive time. And the breakout rooms, we're thinking about 20 minutes in our breakout rooms to really work in our small groups, generate ideas on a particular topic. And then after about 20 minutes, like at 7, I don't know, 6:50, 6:55, something like that, we're going to come back and share out our ideas. Closer to the end of the evening, around 7:45, I'm going to drop a link to a Google form for you to fill out. And that's where is proof that you were here tonight. And that in that Google form is where those of you from Vermont will put your BFIS numbers. Okay. So just a couple of housekeeping details. We are recording this, and thanks for Sue to remind me to record it, that we have started that already. I am looking for people who are willing to take notes in the breakout room, and I dropped a link in the chat, and I can drop the link again. If you are willing to be a recorder, if you can open up that document and select which room you want to record for, that would be really helpful, and we'll talk about that in a little bit. When we get to the breakout rooms, you will get to choose which room you go to. So you'll get to select a topic that's relevant for you, something that ideally you want to go into a room that you know a little bit about, and maybe something that you want to contribute to that. And we hope that the breakout room is engaging. So about 2 weeks ago, actually exactly 2 weeks ago, we did a similar session on worms. And in that session, the feedback was really great, that people really enjoyed being able to be in small group and to share and brainstorm ideas. I already mentioned this, the certificate of attendance, you will get a link to complete later this evening. And I think that covers those. One point that's important, so we're on Zoom, and I have to verify who was here. And so if your screen name, so if you hover over your little box, if your name is something other than what your name is, it would be so helpful if you could change it right now. So the way that you do that, when you look at your picture, over at the top right-hand side, there's 3 little dots, and you can click on those 3 little dots. And if you scroll down to the bottom, it says rename. When you click on that, you're only renaming for today's session. So if you're on a shared computer, or, it says, whatever it says, you can click on rename and you can put your actual name in there. That just makes it a lot easier for me when I have to verify attendance. And let's see. Okay.
April, can you tell
yeah.
us what to do again? I thought mine came up with my name, but it only says Barb's iPhone.
Okay. Thanks, Barb. So
Yeah.
if you look at your screen where your face is, there's 3 little dots. And if you click on those 3 little dots, down at the bottom, it says, or at least on mine, it's in that list. Mine is the last thing. It says rename, and you can click on that and type in what you want it to say.
Oh.
Or Barbara, you could even tell me, what is your last name? Is this Barbara P? I don't
No,
see.
it's, oops, wait.
So it's a long day. So I ought to do also
Transfer.
Okay, I'm going to keep
It's
moving.
Barbara Sibo Constantine.
Oh,
exactly. Well, it's funny because everybody's like, "Ooh, if you had more time since Bernie's been gone," I'm like, I've been working
Barbara,
more,
I
so
think I changed it, but I don't think I spelled it right, but I'll know who you are.
Oh, it's okay. You have Constantine. You don't have to have the whole last name.
Okay, perfect. Thank you. Thanks so much for those of you who are in the document and who are willing to be recorders. This just makes it so that we're able to capture the notes for the evening. And then I will share out, you will have access to all of the notes because we're putting them all into one document. Okay. And Karen got that. Oh, okay, perfect. Okay. Most of you know me. I just want you to, I like to just share a little bit about myself, and then I'm going to introduce my friend Sue, and she's going to tell a little bit about herself and go right into our little photo tour. I'm a nature-based educator. I've been teaching since 2000, and I really love supporting other educators who are wanting to bring nature into their programs. So I sent out my weekly newsletter, which is called, from my business name, called April's Teaching Tree. And so if you're here tonight, you got an email from me. Today's email came through my email service provider. And so that's where my newsletter will come from. I am a college faculty member. I teach a curriculum course for nature-based early childhood educators that's happening this summer. I do have another free session coming up, another 2-hour free workshop in May. And so if you're in my newsletter, you'll get all the details about that. But we're going to do that on May 25th. It's going to be talking about risky play. I do series of workshops, and I also am a moderator of a Facebook group, and it's called Nature Inspired Teacher. And so if you're interested in staying in touch, reading my newsletter, or checking out the Nature Inspired Teacher Facebook group would be really a great way. Okay, I think, just as a reminder, you don't need to put your BFIS numbers into the chat. I'm not going to get them that way. I'm going to get them through a form that I share with you a little bit later. Okay, a couple of other quick things that I want to just go over. One of the top things that I think is really important is that safety first. And so we know as early childhood educators, and some of you are after school staff as well, that we really have to consider the ages of the youngest child within our group. So as you're seeing photographs, know that if you are working with infants and toddlers, that your materials will look different than if you are working with school-age children only. So obviously safety first. And of course, we're thinking about choking hazards. And I know this is a review, but I just feel like due diligence in saying, If things can fit through a paper towel tube or a toilet paper tube, then we know it's a choking hazard and that a child can accidentally choke on it. I am a preschool teacher. I work with 3 to 5-year-olds, and it depends on the year. Sometimes I have years, like, knock on wood, like this year, where I don't have anyone that's putting things into their mouth. And so we are using smaller loose parts that would be considered a choking hazard, but it's safe with my age group this year. But some years it's not. And it's not just, when children turn 3, it doesn't magically happen that it becomes safe. With mud kitchens, kids are exploring and deconstructing as much as they are mixing up potions. So we want to make sure that there's no sharp textures or sharp edges. And one of the tools that I think kids just love to smash things and, explore that deconstruction sort of phase. And so sometimes things do become sharp, especially things like seashells. I think that's the one that tends to get sharp really quickly. But same thing with tools that we might be using or plastic toys that have cracked. And so, we want to have a safety check to make sure things are safe. Same thing with allergens. If you have a child who has a nut allergy, you want to be careful with tree nuts. We want to keep a watch on mold. As kids are exploring and mixing concoctions, depending on the temperature, things can get moldy and get quite kind of funky. And so we don't want children playing with mold. And so we want to get rid of those kinds of things. Another safety thing that we really want to think about, particularly with the mud kitchen, is no large buckets of water. So with open buckets, so things like a 5-gallon bucket is a great way to transport water. However, it's really dangerous if a bucket fills with water. And if you look at some of the statistics, it's very, very scary in that children can drown in as little as like 2 inches of water in a bucket. So if a child leans over the bucket, and even if it's just a little bit of water in there, that their shoulders can get trapped and they can end up drowning. And so obviously we want to, think safety first. And then the last one, nobody even wants to think about, right? And that is rodents. But if the children are playing with things that other creatures thinks are delicious, it is quite possible. And I've shared this story and other things that I've done, but I had the most amazing acorn collection one time up until a couple of mice found and they were having their heyday in this collection of acorns. So we want to make sure that we are playing in a way and, maintaining the space so that we are not attracting rodents into our space. I'm going to hand the reins over to my friend Sue. Sue is a home provider, and she is just a lovely person that I've gotten to meet, and I'm so excited that she's going to be here. All right, so Sue, if you want to pull up your screen, Sue is also the author. As she's doing that, I'm going to just give you a little bio about her. Sue's also the author of a book called, wait, I have to find my notes. Overcoming daycare burnout. And she has a website called it's there on the screen, littlebabyacademy.net. And she has a really wonderful, if you love the photos in the slideshow she's about to share, if you go to her website, and I'll drop that website into the chat in just a second. But if you go to her website, you can get a download of her Mud Kitchen resource. So Sue, I am going to hand it over to you.
Hi, everyone. Good evening. Thank you so much for joining us today. And I have been a home childcare provider for over 14 years. I love what I do. And one of the best things that we do is playing in the Mud Kitchen. It is actually the most played in area of the daycare in our outdoor classroom. So welcome in, and let's dive into what I have been doing with my Mud Kitchen and how the children have been playing with my Mud Kitchen. So Mud Kitchen, when we think of Mud Kitchen, what do we think of when we think of Mud Kitchen? Sometimes it's mud, sometimes it's just a lot of mess. But let's see what we do along in the seasons, yeah? Here we see that Mud Kitchen provides practical life skills. Children of all ages engage in the Mud Kitchen. And let's see if we can look at Mud Kitchen beyond the mud. This is my son, Hiru. He is 12 years old. Are you all seeing the screen? Yeah, this is my son, Hiru. He is 12 years old and he loves to garden, cook, you know, all the things that little boys love to do, play video games, climb trees, mow the lawn. But more than anything else, he has been playing in the mud since he was a little boy, and he still loves to do so. Now, when we think of Mud Kitchen, are we thinking of a kitchen setup like this, or what are some of the things that we can do with a Mud Kitchen? I'd like to introduce you with some of the accessories that I've been using in the Mud Kitchen and what the children just love to play with. And it is actually real kitchen accessories like your pots, your pans, your plates, your forks, your spoon, things that you actually use in your kitchen or when you go camping. Think of camping or what people would use at a canteen, like a cafeteria. And this is what we use a lot in our Mud Kitchen, and it's not necessarily child size, but the children just love to use these kind of things. And real kitchen items can be found at thrift stores if you don't have anything at home. You know, when you're thinking of changing out your pots and pans, think of your school, what you can use in your school. Yeah. I like to introduce different Mud Kitchen styles that we've used over the years, and the very tabletop, the picnic table that you've got at your childcare space that can be used as the place for Mud Kitchen, not necessarily a structure, not a stove and all of that, but your tabletop can also be used as a Mud Kitchen. Over the years, we've had children who love to use like tree stumps, tree branches, pretty much like when you go camping and you put the sticks together for s'mores, the children recreate what they see. And here we have the children using that too. If you have a neighbor who is giving away like a oven or something, think of how we can repurpose those things outside in our kitchen. Tires, we've been used also for Mud Kitchen styles. However, caution when we're using tires, think of where you're placing the tires. If you're placing it in direct heat, then also know that tires really get hot. And I know some people are against using tires and some people are for tires. So do what is best for you. A lot of times the children just love to be on the ground and we're thinking, do I need a Mud Kitchen or do I just let them play on the ground? And these are the children playing on the ground and having fun, and of all ages. They love the low surfaces. We can also reuse our old grills. It's a season when we're thinking about replacing grills or replacing things. So think of what you can replace and use outside. So we have used the old grills for the Mud Kitchen. So Mud Kitchen has various options, not just mud, we can use it with water. April just talked about smashing. We've just finished our winter season here in Chicago. So it's, we're coming out of all of that ice season. And for the entire winter, it was snow and ice, melt, freeze, and the smashing deconstruction. And it's just amazing how much the children use a lot of ice during that time. Now we're into muddy rainy season and here comes the mud. So think of Mud Kitchen with different options, not just mud, but we can also use what's pictured here. In the early spring, the children love to pick flowers and plants and everything. One of the things that I do allow them to do is to pick weeds. And here they're picking the purple dead nettle and they're using it to cook with. Even though the daffodil is right beside them, it's tempting. But they're not allowed to pick the daffodils, but they're allowed to pick plants, you know, identify the plants that are not toxic, the plants that are good for the children and allow them to use it. And also teaching them boundaries, you know, what is acceptable, what can and what can't. Whenever the daffodils are in abundance, then, we offer daffodils to them and they can do different cooking styles with them. Also, depending on the area you're in, if you're in Florida, maybe bougainvilleas. If you're here if you're in the Midwest or in cold climates, maybe hydrangeas or different butterfly bushes that comes out early spring. We all know our territory, our seasons, and we use natural ingredients. However, if we're going on a prairie path or a nature path, we have to be mindful that not all things we can pick. So again, here comes boundaries, knowing what is acceptable for us to pick and what is to be left in their natural habitat. I also love to repurpose food. And if you have outdated food, here's an opportunity that you can use it in your mud kitchen for learning if you are one that is okay with using food. Some people are against it, but for me, if it's old, stale food, instead of throwing it into the garbage, then why not use it as play? Again, if you're for it. Here's an opportunity for the children that we garden beside the mud kitchen. So there is a tomato tree planted right at the mud kitchen, so the children have access to it. So when you're thinking of a mud kitchen and giving children the permission to, what opportunities do you provide for them to use certain things to cook? So for this tomato tree was specifically planted for them to use and investigate with. And then we love to use the natural resources because of our seasons here in the Midwest, pine cones, different colored flowers, different colored leaves. So we use all of these resources and it becomes part of our mud kitchen. The leaves the children cook with, and even the buds, the dried up buds off your trees. I don't do fall cleanup, but we leave it there for the children to play with and for them to have fun with. And then here we have an example of what we have in the early fall, learning with the seasons, even outdoors. This pumpkin, actually, my supermarket was giving it away because it was the end of the season and they were just giving free pumpkins. And I picked up this pumpkin free and we were able to use it outdoors. So think of what you can get free, also that it's an opportunity for the children to learn with. And then here we have, again, a lot of dead branches or dead hydrangeas dried up, but we've used it all winter, from the fall going into the winter time. As April said, she's just coming out of snow season, so we are too. So wading pool can be used as a mud kitchen for the snow. It's different from a drowning hazard because, it's for the snow. And when the snow melts, you can throw out the water, or we can leave it there for it to freeze and it becomes a giant smashing ground. Now, when we think of mud kitchen, we're thinking of water sources. I don't have water. Do I have water? What can we use? And this is what I did. I used an old igloo here as a water source. Caution with this also is that, as April mentioned, drowning hazard, this one is high above, but even though it's high above, we are going to think about the children that can pull it down on them. So know your children, know what you need to do so that you can create a safe environment for everyone. How do we create hand washing tools when there is no water source? This is one of the ways that I do it. Instead of throwing out my laundry soap containers, we recycle them by adding some elements to it that April will talk on further, and this becomes an aid for the children to wash their hands. Lastly, what are some of the challenges that I've experienced with my mud kitchen? The one that I built is that it's too high for infants. So as you can see in the pictures before, sometimes we use the ground, and I think because we've used the ground so much, we automatically gravitate to that lower level. It just becomes part of what they do. Sometimes the seasonal deposits end up clogging the drains. How do you get it out? Either you scoop it out or wire it out, but that can become a challenge. The challenge also with a mud kitchen is that if you have a wood mud kitchen, at times it may rot. So what kind of wood are you making that mud kitchen with? For the mud kitchens that don't have a covering, what are some of the challenges that you experienced during the summer, the fall, the winter, working with the exposed weather conditions, the elements? So those are some of the challenges that I've experienced with the mud kitchen, not having any running water. And then when we think of the mud kitchen, what are some of the words that come to our mind? What are some of the learning experiences that children experience during play with the mud kitchen? And I have found that it becomes a very calming space to some of my children who have behavioral issues. They love going to the mud kitchen because it gives them the autonomy and the freedom to play creatively. And there are boundaries, but there's not as many boundaries outdoors as we have indoors. So these are some of the words that come to mind. Thank you so much. And I'm done.
Yay, that was really good. I love having other voices and seeing it in action, mud kitchens in other places. I want to share sort of a funny story and then a couple of photos from some programs, because I think sometimes we get this misconception that when we think about mud kitchens, like we have to have something really fancy. And so I want to tell you the story about the Cadillac of mud kitchens. This mud kitchen is one that I purchased with grant money. When I bought it, I want to say that it wasn't, I went and looked, I was like, how much was that thing? Well, I went and looked and it is now $1,525, which to me is like just completely bonkers. I purchased it just a couple of years ago. I used COVID mitigation grant money, and I think it was $1,200, which is still completely ridiculous. And the funny part of it is that I have this beautiful thing, and it does have a 10-year warranty. It is from Community Playthings, which is a wonderful company, and I actually really love their materials. But is it necessary? The answer is definitely no, because what I find is kind of exactly what Sue said, is that kids like to play flat. So we're envisioning them like doing all of the things like on top of a structure of a mud kitchen, when in fact kids really do like going flat. And so don't let not having a Pinterest-worthy like mud kitchen space or a piece of equipment stop you from thinking about, starting your own mud kitchen journey. So I find it's more of the pots and pans and the materials that we offer for children. And I completely agree with Sue. Kids like authentic materials. And so tools that we get, asking for donations from families is a great idea. Going to thrift stores or yard sales, or asking your currently enrolled families. I encourage you to have a wish list and put things on it that you could use in the mud kitchen. I find oftentimes in outdoor spaces, it's really like more, we think we have to have more, when in fact, as long as we have enough materials that kids can engage with them, it's not really, we don't need the Cadillac of the mud kitchens. And so I think it's more about the pots and pans and the provisions, whether it's mud or sand or things for kids to explore, than it is about the physical structure. And so even just having a few materials, I think, is enough to get you started. When I used to teach in the forest, I had a milk crate, with tools and spoons and different things. And even just a milk crate full was enough for kids to really get engaged. Of course, when you're talking about a group, years where I had 15 or 20 kids, having too few of supplies, there would be some maybe confrontation or conflict happening. But I think that it's just a good reminder that we don't have to overcomplicate it. This is a picture. This child care center is now closed. This was Red Doors, which I loved this space. This is a very inexpensive build. It's a two-sided, you can't tell from this photograph, but it's two-sided, so kids could play on either side. And the day that I was visiting, this was like the hot ticket item. Kids were playing, with both sides of it, and they were kind of playing restaurant and passing things under and on top. And I just liked how there was a lot of area for kids to play. In this picture, I would point out down here, this open cup hook. I think a licensor would not, I think that should go. I don't think you should have that. I don't think the licensor would approve it. And I just like to point out those subtleties. This is an example of a more of a wild mud kitchen. This is at North Branch Nature Center in Montpelier, Vermont. I liked the variety of materials. The one caution in this photo is that if you have this pot, lobster, I call it a lobster pot, it's probably called a stock pot or something else. You don't want it to, you want to make sure, again, of that drowning hazard thing. So, you don't want it to be too wide. And you don't want standing water, right? And so one of the questions in the Google Forms people were asking about was, what about mosquitoes? Well, you do not want your spaces to be breeding mosquitoes. And so you want to be, turning things over. And Sue and I had this conversation like, well, do you really clean yours? Because several people wanted to know, well, how often do you clean the mud kitchen? To me, it's just sort of like minimal upkeep, and with the hope that rain is kind of helping to naturally wash it away, and then to sweep things off. I use a broom occasionally and come through with a broom. I don't have a hose at where my mud kitchen is now, so I used to be able to just hose things down. Oh, that's a really great question. Jen in the chat says she's wondering, will you discuss a way in which we can create mud that doesn't come from the ground? Yeah, and so that's a really great question. One of the boundaries, I love Sue talking about, setting boundaries with your kids, because it doesn't mean that this is a free-for-all, right? And I think sometimes what people feel worried about with mud kitchens is it's just like chaos and pandemonium. Well, we don't want, in my program, my mud kitchen is in the courtyard of a public school. So when we leave our space, we need to leave it mostly tidy. And we can't just dig anywhere that we want to, because it becomes tripping hazards when kids are digging in the ground, and it's a multi-use space, that it's not just our play area. And so the way that I use, where do we actually get the mud for the mud kitchen? We take soil that's like garden soil, and we repurpose that. But I also bring in a bag of sand, and I also occasionally bring in bags of organic soil for the kids to play with. But I think that you can come up with a lot of different ways. And so in the questions, some people were saying, well, some of our soil is really too thick for the kids to play with. But even that is an exploration in itself. So exploring different kinds of soils, I think could be quite interesting. And then, of course, knowing that snow kitchens, I feel like snow kitchens may be sort of the gateway into the mud kitchen play, because it's much easier to clean up after snow. And so just to think, this idea of mud kitchen can actually be a year-round kind of exploration. Oh, and Jen asks, do you cover it when not in use? That's a really great question. So it depends on where you're at, what your regulation, many of you are in regulated care, so you have licensing regulations, and not everyone is from Vermont. Speaking to here, we're not required to cover our sandboxes, but we are required to inspect them regularly. And so hopefully your space is not being used as a kiddie litter box, because we do not want children to be playing with feces of kitties. And so I don't know if I can put that any more politely. So the mud kitchen, I don't cover it. We mostly dig our soil from a garden bed that we have, a raised bed. And some parts of the year that ground is frozen. And so sometimes we don't use that. Sometimes I bring in some materials, but no, I don't actually cover it. Yeah, for sure. So Jen's idea is maybe she'll use a turtle sandbox and put soil in that and use the lid to cover it. And that certainly could be a great solution. And Ariel says she has a net that we pull over the sandbox at night at the end of the day to prevent animals from going to the bathroom or digging in there. Yeah,
Absolutely.
yeah, for sure. And when I used to have I don't have a full sandbox at my current program, but when I did, I always covered it, because we had a lot of neighborhood cats, and it was better to cover it and err on the side of caution. Right. Lisa says that sensory tables like the one from IKEA with lids can also work good as well. Okay, so we're at, look at that, 6:36. We did it.
Yes, we did.
I'm like, okay. So the way that we're going to do the breakout rooms is I have typed in a huge number of breakout rooms because we do want to kind of keep them small. We are at a little bit over 100 people. So in order to select your breakout rooms, I have created 15 rooms for you to choose from. So to where you can navigate to find this, if you go down along the taskbar, it says breakout room, and you can click on that. And then what you'll need to do is scroll down when you see that little white box pop up, and you'll see the title of different rooms. And you can go into those rooms by clicking the word join. So if the room already has, like, I don't know, more than 7 or 8 people, I would ask that you choose a different room. And if you're a recorder, you should also open up the Google Doc link, which I can drop again, so that you could take notes in your section of the Google Doc. And if you're like, April, I have no idea what you're talking about, I'm just going to ask you to hold on for a moment. As people join and we have a smaller group on the screen, I can move you manually into the room that you want to go. But we have to, the numbers keep changing, and it's really hard for me to do until we have a smaller group. Oh, Kashima, how do I join from a mobile device? Kashima, I think if you want to just wait and tell me which room you want to go to, I can just, I can send you there, and then it's just a single button that you have to click. And I hope
Yes, I was gonna ask the same question.
Okay, Barbara. So the rooms that you can choose from are, there's infant and toddler. Actually, that's pretty full. There's family childcare, there's school age, there's math connections, there's plants for play, mud books, literacy connections, tools for the snow kitchen, tools for mud play, mud kitchen setups, loose parts, and craft a donation letter template or a director's group. So
Family childcare.
okay, Barbara. Barbara says family childcare, and let me find you, Barbara. Oh,
Is it full?
no, it's just, it takes me a minute. Like when there's so many people, it's hard to click on the thing. Oops. Okay, just give me a second here. Where did your name go now, Barbara? Damn, I can't do it. What happens is other people are joining, and so it's like a thing that Zoom is going to need.
You know what, April? You can put me anywhere that's easiest for you.
Okay, all right,
I'm easy.
okay,
Okay,
April?
I did.
yeah, Amanda. I'm thinking that I'm not sure if the math one has anyone recording in it, because I think, let me see my notes. This is let's see. And math was supposed to be Renee or Karuna, but I think, let me just see if they're in. Yeah, Amanda, if you want to go into the math one and be a recorder, that would be awesome, because I don't think either of the people who were signed up for that did it.
Math one is done.
Denise, where would you like to go? I can put you in one.
April, how come we haven't been able to, nothing's come up on to be able
No?
to go any?
Which one do you want to go to, Donna? Family?
Either literacy or math, probably.
Okay. Whoops, where's Donna? Okay.
April.
Yes. Oh, hold on 1 second. Let me get Donna's. What happens is the number keeps changing, and then I go to click it and then I can't do it. Okay. Donna is going to literacy. So Donna, something should pop up that you can click. Okay, who else can I help?
Wait, I'm back.
This
Oh.
is Lori, April. I'm trying to get into Plants for Play, but it won't let me join.
Oh, that's interesting. Let's see. Lori, plans to play. You know what, Lori? It says it shows that you're in the room, but you didn't join it yet. So,
Can you join from a phone?
Sheila, which group did you want to go into?
I said I could do tools or plants.
Okay,
I'm-
Sheila, tools or plants. Okay.
My group is kind of confused because there was no instruction before we went out into breakout rooms.
Oh, okay, Amanda, you're brainstorming with your small group. Yeah, thanks for that minor point. Yeah, Amanda, if you can brainstorm with your group, your topic, and take down some notes, like how could you build ideas, under that topic. So if you're math, yeah, exactly. And we're gonna come
April,
back.
I'll go in each group and just announce
Okay.
what they need to do,
Thanks,
okay?
Sue. I appreciate
Okay,
that.
yeah. Mhm.
Perfect. Patty, do you, yeah, or Tammy, your hand was up. Tammy, which one do you want to go into?
It doesn't matter, whatever. Just put me somewhere.
Okay. Tammy.
Tools, my kitchen setup, I don't care.
Okay. Mud Kitchen Setup has a big one. So let's
Okay. Anywhere.
Okay. Tammy, I'm gonna send you to Mud Books. Okay. And Patty.
Maybe the tools.
Okay. Okay. Yep. There's tools. And April.
Yes, I also wanted to go to my kitchen setup, but if it's completely full.
There's 19, so it's a pretty big group. Let's see. There's tools or mud books or
Okay, you can send me the tools, that's fine.
Okay.
Thanks.
Perfect. All right. And Rena, where would you like to go? You looks like you're on a lovely walk. Rena.
I don't know if she can hear you or not. I also am waiting for something.
Okay, Kushima, which one do you want to go to? And I'm sorry if I'm. What was that?
Do you have a room for people who are like nervous beginners and
Nervous
like
beginners? Let's see. That would have been a good one. There is one for let's see. There's not many in the nervous beginners. That would have been a smart one to do. There's one for there's mud books or literacy connections or crafting a donation letter. Any of those sound interesting?
Not those three. Do you have anything, something else? Otherwise, I'll just have you put me in like you did everyone else.
Yeah,
But
sure. You want to go to family childcare or
yes, that's perfect. Family childcare.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. All right. So Denise, I don't see you. It looks like you're in math, but it's like you haven't actually joined. So I don't know if I can help you or not.
All right, April, I'm going from room to room and
Okay.
some of them are okay. So I've done the first 4. So
Okay.
now the next in line is hitting the math connections. I'm
Okay.
going down if they're okay. All right.
Okay, thank you so much.
You're welcome.
I just wanted to announce that I've come back to the room.
Okay.
We've been having a different type of discussion in here. They're not talking, and I was in the family child care room, and they're not talking about anything that's related to your program. They're
Oh,
talking
no.
about how many, what's the ratio there in your state? You know, if you have a provider, not a provider, but an assistant, or if you don't have an assistant.
Oh,
That's
okay.
what I'm talking about. Nothing
Okay.
nothing about it. So I've come on back in with you.
Okay, well, that's fine too. Yeah, so you're welcome to stay. I tend to, it's hard sometimes with this large of a group to have, but
Absolutely.
yeah.
I just wanted to explain why I came back.
Absolutely.
And so that you be aware, because you know,
For
I
sure.
understand putting something together like this is huge, and it sounds great. I was listening to you guys. It sounds really good. I'm still in.
Okay, awesome. Yeah, so I think part of getting started is like, I think, you know, almost starting small and then figuring out what's going to work for you. Oh, I just noticing someone is messaging me. Literacy. Yeah. So it
Are you directing that towards me?
Oh no, I'm trying to there's private messages in the chat that I was trying to write to, but yeah. Do you want to try a different room? There's also there's school age or math connections.
I can try the math connection. That'd be great.
Okay, sure thing.
All right. Thank you.
Sure. Let me just move you to the math connections. There we go. Oh, Denise. Okay. Hi, Kathleen.
I have a question. I can see Sue right there. May I ask her a question?
Of course.
Hi, Sue. How are you?
Oh, Sue, you're muted.
Hi, how are you?
Hi, I'm doing great. So I had a question. I wanted to know what your suggestions would be to a person like me who's scared of, I'm nervous. I don't like dirt. I don't like being dirty. I'm scared of birds and bugs and, you know, any creepy crawly type of things. I'm just very uneasy. However, I don't want to teach that to the kids I have, and I really would like to overcome it. I just don't know how to do it in a way that's going to be enjoyable for me.
You know, I think that's a perfect question for April to answer.
Thank you, Sue. Well,
you're so welcome.
April, you're in. Dad, you're in.
I think part of it is one is you just acknowledging that it's like, okay, this is not my thing yet. I want kids to still feel connected to it. And so, you know, I think creating the opportunities for them to do it, even when it's not your thing, is really huge. And that's like a big step in itself. I think maybe starting with materials like having sand might be better. In that the sand is easier to clean up. It's not quite as, you know, it doesn't feel quite as messy. And so maybe starting with that and then starting with some loose parts or materials that you know, whether it's like leaves or tree cookies or, you know, material kids
okay.
can play with.
So I do have a sandbox, and I do add water to it.
Oh, we heard you.
Did we lose you?
Yeah, well, I think she said she has a sandbox, and then I didn't.
And I want to know what are some other materials maybe. I can imagine the equipment. What are some other materials that they can play around with that would be technically considered mud kitchen, but you know, mud kitchen, light version, extra version.
For that one, I can jump in for this one. If sand is something that you already have, I would suggest going to an area in your space that doesn't necessarily have a lot of bugs crawling. So take it up off the ground. Do you have a deck that you can use? Do you have a higher ground that you can use that is not necessarily flat and with worms and all of that you do not want to come into contact with? And also using water. Pure water by itself, again, not in big buckets, would also help you with the kitchen tools and the kitchen materials, the pots and the pans and those things. That is also good. We can think of dried flowers. Instead of tossing dried flowers, can we use those dried flowers when we get a bouquet? Can we ask for donations for those to use outdoors?
That sounds so pleasant to me.
Pardon me?
That sounds pleasant. I'm smiling hearing those ideas.
There you go. So you can start from there and gradually move from there, and not thinking of jumping into all the mud and the mess because of your fears. You know, start small and then you add, layering it to be comfortable in front of the children, with the children.
Thank you.
You're absolutely welcome. I'm going into another room to see if they're doing okay.
Okay.
Thank you, Kashima.
You're welcome.
Okay.
Let's see. And Denise, do you need to be, I feel like Denise got put into 2 different rooms. I don't know how she signed in twice, but
Like to just drop me someplace, April?
Okay.
How long, what time are they coming back?
They're coming back I think they're coming back at 7, so they still have 6 more minutes. Let's see. Okay. There's Kashim, let's see. I have to figure out where you are. Back in here. Hi Denise. You're muted, so I can't hear you.
My connection is so bad today. I had to go in and back out.
Okay, that's fine. Let's see.
Back in plants.
Sure. Denise, back in plants. Okay, that should work.
There we go. I see you.
Kashima. All right. Kashima, I can put you, let's see. Kashima, we could put you over in the tools. Maybe that one.
Thank you.
Sure. It's a lot of people.
It is. So I'm just going from room to room. It's
I
so
appreciate it.
interesting going from room to room. I love it. Thank you. I'm
You're
off
welcome.
again.
Yeah, okay. Hey, Lisa, I'm sorry you're all by yourself in this room. Oh, you're on mute. I can't hear you. And you are being recorded, just so you know.
Oh, it's okay. Someone joined and they were walking and then they left the group.
Oh, okay.
They were muted and I had said what group they were in and then it
Yeah.
probably wasn't the group they wanted. I did write some notes down.
Okay, awesome. Well, I appreciate it. And
No problem.
I was like, it's hard to have this many people on a Zoom and like, okay, we're doing breakout rooms. Let's figure this out.
And probably, you know, like 50% or more jump into one room and you're like, ah, can you move?
Yeah. Well, and people keep, but you know, because of internet connections, they keep getting bumped. So they like have to come back in and then go back. So anyway, I'm going to go back to the main room. I just wanted to say thank you for being here.
Yep.
And all right. All right.
Sounds good.
Bye. Hi, Kim. All right. Welcome back, guys. It's a lot of people. Like, it's hard to run a breakout room with breakout rooms with people, that many people. Hi. Hopefully that was useful. People still have about 30 seconds to come back, so we won't quite start to share out yet. All right, so folks are coming back. That's exciting. Got a few more seconds. All right, well, welcome back. Doing breakout rooms with this many people is kind of an interesting experience, and some people were getting bumped out of their room. Let me just hit mute again. Okay, I just put everyone on mute, but we're going to the next phase is sharing out, and rather than trying to share out all of the notes that you took in your group, we just want to kind of capture some of the, you know, maybe like 2 or 3 sort of main things that happen, or, you know, things that are like, oh, that's a really either a really amazing idea or a really amazing wondering. And so I was watching as the notes were being populated, and there's, you know, sometimes when you're doing, I do a lot of professional development, and sometimes you get these moments where you're like, well, I can't answer people's questions, but that's the whole point of being early childhood educators, is that we have this opportunity to be like, I don't know the answer to that, and we can find out. And so just as we would with children modeling inquiry, we'll do the same, you know, during this process. And so let's see. Oh, thanks, Sarah, for being a note taker unexpectedly. I appreciate that. I think there was a couple of groups. Let's see. Oh, someone.
I just have a quick question.
Yeah.
Is it okay? I'm more of a write down on piece of paper notes. Is it okay if afterwards I type it in? Okay, perfect. Thank you so much. I'm like, I can't type that quick.
That's no problem. Thanks, Amanda, for asking. Yeah,
Same.
that's totally same here.
You're welcome. Okay, good. I'm glad I'm not the only one.
Thank you, Sarah. Thank you, Amanda. I really appreciate it. So,
Sorry.
oh,
Sorry.
that's okay.
So for our group, I emailed you back when we first got the email about this saying I wanted to do school age notes, but someone else's name was on there, but they actually didn't come in our group. So I winded up taking the notes for our group.
Thank you. I so appreciate that. Yes, awesome. I'm very thankful that you did that. So thanks for taking notes for that. And let's see. Okay. It's like, who would like to share out first? Actually, maybe I will. So, oh, go ahead.
Okay, so hold on, let me.
Okay.
I pressed the space button. I needed to press the button. So I was with the Math Connections with the mud kitchen, not mud room. And I was able to, at first we were a little confused on how we should, oh, my dinner is delivered. Thank you. I was a little confused. We were a little confused on how we should go about it, kind of thing. Thank you. But we were thinking about, obviously the obvious things, counting, fractions, measuring. Someone spoke about carrying the heavy things, how to problem solve if it's too heavy. What do we have to do to get it? I'm down. Thank you. And then we were talking about where we could get the things, because a lot of the issues would be like, if you spend your money on the things and then they're outside, they're getting broken, they're getting lost, kind of thing. So we were talking about goodwill or donations from parents, but also someone had an idea of a tote, and I brought up a wagon because we're big wagon users at my school, to bring the stuff in. And then if everybody else is interested in it, maybe everybody else will start helping pick it up and help take care of it. And it won't just be out there for other children to ruin. And another really cool thing was, we were talking about laminated recipe cards, and Sue came in and told us about early years outdoors on Etsy. And apparently that's a very good resource. And I'm going to put that in my portion of the notes. So if anybody wants to use that.
Awesome. That's great. Yeah, one of the tools that I really like for bringing materials out this is a, let me pull back a little bit so you can see it. It's a bin. These are super inexpensive. These are in the like big box stores, Home Depot or Lowe's or your local hardware store. These are awesome because they're really durable. They're meant for mixing concrete. And so, when you're mixing concrete, you're using a shovel, and concrete is gritty. And so it's like a heavy duty plastic. I love these. These are like less than $10. And these are great for transporting materials. And then also, if you didn't have a mud kitchen space, this could be sort of like your main mixing pot area. So for less than $10, you can get and they come in different sizes, but they're really affordable. They hold up really well. And those of you who are worried about freezing and thawing, I saw in the notes that, plastic ends up cracking too quickly. This is a type of plastic that will last. And the other kinds of things, the materials, if you go to your farm store, like your Farm and Feed, or I don't know some of the national brand ones, but like Agway or whatever your farm stores are, the buckets that they have there that are really meant for heavy duty use. And so rather than putting your money into plastic pails that are going to crack, really like beach buckets that from the dollar store that crack in less than, just a few weeks, investing in a little bit of a thicker plastic, I think, can be a good idea. All right. Who else would like to chime in?
I can go.
Okay.
So I had school age, and we talked kind of a lot because I feel like in my group, first of all, it was really interesting. I had people from like Canada and all over the place. So it was really interesting. California, because I'm from Massachusetts. So it was really nice to hear from others. But the big thing was sharing playgrounds outside. Not everyone has their own playground. So same thing, kind of, I don't know your name. Amanda was saying, that basically like they don't want their things ruined and stuff, and it's kind of hard with older kids being around. So portable mud kitchens were one of the things that we talked about, was trying to make your mud kitchen portable, so that way you can kind of keep it from getting destroyed and keep it to your classroom. And then one person in my group I like your bucket idea. It's actually more durable, but someone brought up the idea of milk crates and bringing the milk crates in and out, and then you can dump out the milk crates and flip them over and actually use them as a mud kitchen as well outside. And then the last thing that I thought that was probably the most important was I was talking about how I went to a vocational high school and they had build mud kitchens for the early childhood. And we talked about like calling local vocational schools around our daycares or wherever you work, or calling even community colleges, because sometimes not only do they want to do it voluntarily, but sometimes they need the hours to build stuff like carpenters and things like that, or welders. So if you just reach out, you might just be lucky to kind of run into someone that can help you guys with that.
That's a great idea. Yeah. Oh, Sue, you're muted. I see you're chiming in.
No, I was just saying, I absolutely love the idea of having them offer their services, you know, like Big Brothers or something, you know, some sort of internship. Let them intern in your backyard. This is beautiful. Also, your idea with the buckets, April. We have 2 of those buckets and we've used them for years with the smashing of the ice, and they have not broken. They've held up. So those carpenter buckets at Home Depot here in the US, it's really, really great. Thank you.
Yeah. I think the Tuffy trays, which from the UK, I can find a link to that, but Tuffy trays, I was able to buy one from Discount School Supplies. They're bigger and flatter. Let me just see if I can find a picture of one. I didn't put one in my slide deck. Really Good Stuff sells them now too. That's interesting. Okay, that's ridiculous.
April, you have one?
I have one. I bought mine from Discount School Supply. And I bought mine for like 40. Oh, look, they have them on Amazon. Let's see.
They're so cool. I would love one of those.
Yeah, Penny, they are really, I'm pulling this up from Amazon. I haven't vetted any of these. But yeah, look, they have them now. So Tuffy trays are usually more, there's different ones here. Another example that might be closer and end of season would be like boot trays. So boot trays are those trays that we use to keep the mud contained, but that could be kind of a work surface, I think, as well. So Tuffy trays. All right, who else would like to chime in? Whoops, I don't need to screen share that.
I can.
Okay, thanks, Sarah.
So we did mud kitchen tools and kind of like the accessories. So I had written down beforehand the laundry soap containers that you showed, because those are awesome. But we talked about the different pots and pans with lids, soap dispensers, large metal, like the metal bowls for stirring and mixing. We talked about like the Dollar General being a great place, or Salvation Army, all those stores to buy these things because they're not expensive. We talked about a hose sprayer for holding silverware, the old dishwashers, the silverware tray. From that, strainers, whisks, different pans, cake pans, muffin tins, loaf pans, all the different things they can work with, pizza pans, spray bottles, the old ketchup and mustard ones that you can squeeze, applesauce cups, a scale, so that they can do balancing and things like that. Adding timers, a chalk and chalkboard for, you know, menu making and stuff. Although chalkboards we discussed, someone had tried it, they don't last long outside. And then nature in general was another one of our tools. It was our biggest tool. Like sticks, rocks, dirt, different dirt, sand, pine cones, all the things they find in nature is the biggest tool.
Awesome.
I'm thinking paint, plexiglass with chalkboard paint.
Oh,
I like that idea.
Yeah. You know, ask too, because I feel like a lot of schools bought a huge amount of plexiglass in 2020 when they had to put up those partitions. And I feel like there was a run on plexiglass and then you couldn't find it for a long time. So somewhere that's all in storage because we're not using them anymore. So that could be, asking, attaching plexiglass also to the, like if you have a fence, like a chain link fence, that can make a really great art easel as well. And I know we're talking mud kitchens, but another thought. And last, when we did the worm group, someone was talking about sort of fashioning the plexiglass in a way so that kids could actually lay underneath of it and look up at the worms as they were kind of crawling around, which I thought sounded quite interesting. So awesome. Thanks for all of those ideas. And thanks for taking great notes from that. Okay, who wants to chime in next?
I can go next.
All right, thank you.
Okay, we did mud kitchen setups, and we talked about using pallets to build your own mud kitchen, and you can get them and just either build your own, or somebody else had got a hold of the pallets that have the more smooth tops on them and just lay those on the ground and let the children use that. We talked about using a bench or any flat surface, stumps, tree cookies, they'll use it all. We talked about being able to dig. Some people said that they were able to dig, some aren't. So we talked about having containers to hold the soil. Talked about letting families know that this is what you're going to be doing at your program and coming dressed appropriately. So we talked about using muddy buddies or rain suits or 2-piece ones with suspenders so that the kids don't get too warm when it gets nice outside. Somebody said that they used a camp shower for the hand washing station because it doesn't hold as much water. It'd be easier to maintain. Another person told us that they had an easel by their mud kitchen so the kids can create with the mess that they're making. And we take the children on a scavenger hunt to collect items for the mud kitchen so that the kids can use whatever it is they find.
Awesome. I love those ideas. And I love the idea too of using the things that you have, and not letting it become too complicated. I will drop a link in the chat. As much as I've said like, oh, don't worry about Pinterest. Well, we know that Pinterest does have a lot of great ideas. I do have a Pinterest board. I used to use Pinterest a lot more than I use now, but I had a board from years ago. And I think sometimes, if we kind of go there and get the inspiration, and not get the overwhelm, but there's lots of different ideas, but using the things that you have. And I think Sue's pictures gave a lot of great examples of, how kids like to go flat and the ways that you can do it. With pallet wood, the one thing to know about pallet wood is that it does rot quicker than other types of wood. And so you might want to consider, if someone is willing to build, like oftentimes I like to have fall and spring work parties, like, community work parties where we, have families come in. Here in Vermont, we have a day called Green Up Day. It's the first Saturday of May. So kind of around then is a good time to have families come in and do refresh things. And so having families come in and build a mud kitchen, it could be something that doesn't have to be done on the day that all the other volunteers are there. But if they're building it out of pallet wood, what you'll find is that the wood won't last as long. And so if you have someone who's a skilled carpenter willing to build you something, consider using some wood that's less rot resistant or is more rot resistant. So woods like here in our region, spruce is what I've used for my raised beds, and it doesn't rot as fast as other, pine or other wood. Or Sue and I were talking too about that kind of, we looked it up. What was it called? Composite, where they have
composite.
Yeah, we were thinking maybe composite, where that decking, specialized decking material that they use out of recycled plastics, maybe something like that could work. And I feel like actually, I didn't look in the licensing regulations recently, but usually with pressure treated wood, we steer clear of pressure treated wood for children. There's conflicting information on the web, but whether it's safe for kids to play with because it's chemically treated. But I think there's a lot of different options there, and pallet wood could work for a shorter period of time, but knowing that it might not last. But I loved that idea though of contacting your vocational high school or CTE programs and having them to build something for you. I think is a really awesome idea.
Yeah, and April, I want to add something with the pallets too. If you're considering using pallets, I would say cover it, because we've had pallets here that we use with our tough tray and all the other things, and we've had it for a while. But here's what happened. It's not left out to the open. So we put like fall grass over it. So there's a layer, there's some kind of protection over it, or even that golf grass. It's a little bit thicker. And so it has that padding that will cover it, and it's also protecting the children from the sharp edges. So as April said, it won't last long. It may give you maybe 3, 4, 5 years. But also when you're using pallets, is to also, because sometimes there are grooves inside of the pallets, not to have the pallets without the slots in there, because that then can become a safety hazard for the children too. So just making the security part of it work for us.
The composite decking gets extremely hot if it's out in the sun.
Oh, good to know, Tina.
I have that for our pool deck, and I had to put a carpet down, like an outdoor carpet, because it was burning our feet.
Oh, wow. Thanks for that tip. Yeah, Kim also chimed in on the composite in the chat, and she said they made theirs out of composite and it's incredibly heavy, so they have a hard time moving it. So it sounds like if you're, maybe there's some drawbacks to composite. I've never tried it myself, but maybe it gets a bit too hot and maybe it's a bit too heavy. I feel like the composite, they call it composite wood. It's actually not a wood product, but it's also quite expensive. Yeah, and Marcy chimed in too about pallets, that she heard some are treated with chemicals, but was never given a way to read any number on the pallets. That's a question that I have, and I don't have the answer to that one, Marcy, but I have heard that as well, that if pallets have certain markings on them, that they may have been treated. One of my kiddos, my own kiddos at home, did a bunch of pallet work this past year, learning, some carpentry skills, and you can tell what is more like of a raw wood and things that have been treated. And so things like, I forget what it's called, but when there's like, it's not plywood, but I don't know. So I guess I don't know the full answer to the pallet, and that would probably be an area of a little bit more study or a little bit more to find out. And Elizabeth also chimed in the chat and says, high humidity is terrible for composite. It decomposes really quickly there. Oh, that's interesting. So if you're in a high humidity area, it's probably not a great idea. And Lisa says she sealed her pallets, made kitchen with a couple layers of varnish, and it really helps. And it's held up in -30 degrees, that's Fahrenheit, hard winters for 7 years and has had no issues. Wow, that's good testament there, Lisa. That's a great idea. So maybe treating it or varnishing it might help. Okay, Kathleen, you have your hand up. We'll go to you next.
I was just wondering, when I'm hearing composite, do people mean like the composite made of recycled materials, like bottles or plastics, or do they mean like particle board or pressed board? Or because pressed board, yes, that would probably break down in high humidity, but composite made out of plastic, that's got to be pretty much forever. I mean, I can't imagine that it really breaks down.
Yeah, so when I'm saying composite, I'm thinking the decking. I'm going to show you a picture of it.
Like the plastic, they make like fake wood grain on it, but it's plastic.
Yeah, plastic, yeah.
That's what I thought you meant when you said composite.
Yeah, so like this is one brand of it called Trex. And this is what I'm thinking, but it's like a wondering, because I haven't, maybe it is too heavy. But yeah, I would think too that it would stand up to weathering.
Right. Because that's what they use to make picnic tables and stuff now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh,
like
yeah.
for public places, that's what they use. And I think that
we have picnic tables made out of that.
I think that the temperature probably would be affected by what color the material is, because it would draw heat or repel. So
like lighter colors might be better.
Mine's light gray.
And it's still hot.
Very.
I was just gonna say my back porch is made out of it, and it's light gray, and it gets so hot. Like I can't walk on it at all.
Oh, wow.
That's crazy.
Yes, and the animals, the dogs can't stand on it, trying to get in the house.
Huh.
And it's very slippery when it's frosty.
Oh, wow.
Oh, yeah, I bet it would
Terrible
be.
material to build it to make for decking, right? Like, why would they even make that?
See, they should have Zoomed with us before this had become.
Yeah.
We could have
Well,
troubleshooted.
they should Zoom with us when they're designing handwear for children and explain to them that gloves on a toddler is just not okay.
We did have an infant and toddler group. I don't know if someone from that group wants to chime in, because there's certainly some unique things we know. So anyone from the infant and toddler want to chime in?
I can, if nobody else wants to.
Yay, there's Emily and Kelsey.
Hi. So we talked about good materials for the infant toddlers, like measuring cups, small frying pans. They still get the weight and the experience, but they're not like big, so they can go beat each other with them. Muffin pan, ice cube trays, funnels, stuff like that. And we talked about the grill that's Sue, I think her name is, showed at the beginning. And we said we should probably stay away from that with the younger group, because they're not going to know like safe touch when they go home and see a grill on kind of thing, or they would like slam it down, pinch their fingers. Where to get materials, we were said donations of community or families, thrift store, wish lists. And we talked about something that like everybody kind of struggles with is the parents, and people just said that they kind of just laid out the law, like you can bring clothes and this is the center expectations, like if you don't like it, then it's not this best spot for you. And some people use rain suits.
Yeah. So I think you're right. Having a messy clothes policy, like those of you who have a family handbook that families when you onboard them or when they join your program, having something in there about having a statement of how you value outdoor year-round play is a really powerful statement about your practice. And as a result of being outdoors year-round means these we call them shoulder seasons. So, in the fall and in the spring, we have these mud seasons. And so kind of explaining that so parents they know what to expect, and having another statement in your handbook about messy clothes policy or something where you're really encouraging families. Sometimes families are like, oh no, I want you to know that we have enough money to send them in these beautiful dresses. And you're like, no, I want them to feel comfortable to paint and be in the mud and mix the things, So having a messy clothes policy and explaining why prior to them enrolling or right when they enroll, then they know what to expect. So that first time when they have a full body experience in the mud area, families know what to expect. Using a Muddy Buddy suit is a great strategy. What happens with these is they get too hot. So like on a day like today where it's heating up throughout the day, this might become, they might get too sweaty in it. So having more of like rain pants that are bibs would be another solution. But this, sometimes this can feel like a barrier for our programs, our childcare centers or schools to have class sets of these, but this is a really great opportunity for grant writing. And I feel like it's a good strategy to continue to play in the mud, yet also to be able to hear families. And I think it's important to hear families and know for some families, it would be a real burden if 5 days a week kids were coming home completely filthy with mud because they're only doing laundry, if they're going to the laundromat and they're only going once a week or every other week, it could feel like a burden. So thank you, Emily, for the toddler ideas. And
1 second, I want to say something with Emily too. Emily, thank you for talking about the grill and how it can come down and pinch the children. Fortunately for that grill, it had like a little a side latch to it, so it comes in, and it's also teaching children the safety of it. Now for infants and toddlers, cognitively they're not there as yet, so I do agree that it's not the best thing for infants and toddlers, that kind of grill. Also, just an idea with the Muddy Buddy, April, is as you talked about the grant, is also having a fee that parents are charged on a yearly basis, and you use that fee to buy the gears, you know, especially if you operate a family child daycare, as I do. And then also there is another aspect of it, that when you have those gears and then you know accumulate those gears, you can also create a rental system where when children do not have those gears, say maybe they pay $5 per month, or you know, $10 extra for that child, and then you supply the gears. So it's just a way to help out the families so that they're not laundering all the time.
I love that.
Thinking another thought when you guys were talking about wood is repurposing. Like if you saw someone getting rid of a real wood coffee table, or even like cutting down a hutch or end stands, you could cut out the top and put your sink in and put the other one next to it and repurpose it that way.
I love that idea, Lisa. Thank you. And Lisa P has her hand raised.
So I was in the winter snow kitchen tools, and we were talking pretty much everything that you would use in a mud kitchen over the summer, minus the plastic things. One of the bigger things that came out of our group was that you really need to make sure that they're stored. Either you take everything back inside, or you have something with a lid, just to keep it accessible, and also from keeping it to rusting and things like that. Of course, you know, all of the things that you have in the kitchen, you need to take into consideration that they can either be used with like gloves or mittens. We were talking about using liquid watercolors to make like gems, like freezing things in like fun ice cube trays or whatever, and kind of taking those things out to be used as ingredients or treasures. Let's see. We were also talking about how sandboxes and sometimes the things that have been used in the mud kitchens get frozen into the ground. So sometimes, you know, digging at those things or having to learn to wait for the thaw. What else? We were thinking maybe, you know, keeping, since winter and there's really not a lot of things you can get at as it's covered by snow, maybe keeping some plants indoors that you can take pieces of outside to use, or fake flowers or things like that to add color in the winter. Also just making sure to keep the snow kitchen accessible. So, I mean, in this year, some big storms came through in Vermont, and it would really take a lot of, you know, shoveling to make sure that your snow kitchens are still accessible.
Yeah. Awesome. That's really good. Thank you. Yeah. And I think to me, one of the fun things to add in the wintertime is also icicles. And so I will bring into my program some icicles from home, and I just find that the icicles become, you know, whether they're stirring with them, oftentimes they become birthday candles, and we have lots of snow cakes, you know, and so I think even thinking about those materials that we add, and Sue had mentioned she doesn't do a huge garden cleanup, like she leaves things that are, you know, plants that are still there. And so it can be fun in the wintertime too, is to kind of, you know, sort of harvest some of the things to add some natural loose parts, especially when it's been, everything is white, everything is under a blanket of snow, and we need some new materials to play with.
There was also, sorry, one more thing, sleds and how they can be used as delivery vehicles.
Yes, that's so true. Delivery vehicles. I love it. Jen, you have your hand up.
Yeah, I just wanted to share in the infant and toddler group. Somebody had talked about that they plant herbs near their mud kitchen. And then somebody else shared that mint has horizontal roots, so they don't pull up as easily, I guess.
Yeah. And mint is like all but indestructible. So wherever you plant mint, just know that you will have mint there like pretty much forever. And it can, you know, it can be really even considered invasive. But in our case, when we want to have a plant that really takes deep root, and it's a hardy plant. Mint is a perennial, it comes back every year, and it can take a lot of like rough and tumble play and still survive once it's, not when it's like a little teeny little sprout, it's just small, but once it's established. So we did have a group, maybe or not maybe, but we had a group that talked about plants. Maybe someone from that group wants to chime in. Mint is one of my favorite.
I'm happy to share from our group if you'd like.
Okay, awesome. Thanks, Victoria.
Yeah, so we talked a little bit about plant safety at like where I teach at the grammar school in Putney, Vermont, in southern Vermont. We have a really big wild area that we play in. We're really lucky. And I do a lot of like plant safety management. There's a lot of like mushrooms there and poisonous plants and safe plants. And there's a lot of like plant respect that I talk to the kids about. And like, if you want to look at a mushroom, let me know and I can pick it so we can look at it, but I don't want you to touch it. And certain plants that have berries that would be really fun to incorporate, but just like are not safe for them to pick. So I talk to them about a lot of that kind of stuff. And then besides that, availability for people who aren't in wild places of where to get plants from. Thinking about harvesting branches from a wild space and bringing a branch full of leaves that the kids can pull off and mix into things, and then cracking twigs and, birch bark and, going to a wild place and harvesting things that you can. And I love the idea that someone had earlier about taking your kids on a like plant scavenger hunt for finding things to bring back to the mud kitchen. I think that's really great. And also we talked about, if there's a local farm or a farm stand. I mean, I know that I worked at a farm stand and I know how much flower waste there was of bouquets that are, starting to go past that they would just throw in the compost pile. So if you can connect with a local farm stand or, a florist and try to get some of their waste, I'm sure that the kids would love pulling flower petals off of, flowers and, leaves and things. Sorry?
Can I go jump diving?
Oh, wait.
I didn't hear that. Sorry.
I couldn't hear it either. I'm not sure, but I love that idea though of you're teaching respect for the plants and also doing it in a safe way. And we should find, I was just trying to quickly find the toxic plant list that they share in the Vermont childcare licensing regulations, and I wasn't able quickly to find it, but I will try to find that and add it to our notes because it's an important one to know. And I think that one of the unique things about playing in the mud kitchen and incorporating plants is we're really making this connection to our seasons here and to our local, the flora that's in our regions. And so bringing in a variety of materials that kids can play with is really great. When I think about plant safety, focusing on culinary herbs or fragrant herbs that are non-toxic, I think could be great for kids. Things like mint and lemon balm are really prolific, things that we could use for making tea, or things that we would use in cooking. So we, would know that they're non-toxic. Yeah.
Also something like a straw, depending on if you had storage or how much space you had in your playground, but a straw bale, also bringing in a small bale of straw can be really fun if you have space to support that kind of mess. Or you could just bring in bit by bit, because that's a safe material also that they can play with in a lot of different ways, and it's fun to mix into things.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I, growing up, my mom had had commercial sized greenhouses and was a florist. And what I would say too is talking to local people who are growing plants in a healthy way, like getting scraps, even like sometimes when I'm, weeding my garden or cleaning the garden and there's just like extra bits for kids to play with, I often sort of squirrel those away and let them dry and then bring them, into the mud kitchen, bring them into my program. And kids get really fascinated. And I think that that's part of where they're playing, but they're also, it's this process of inquiry and really interested in, what are these plants? And when we're adding herbs and fragrant things, we have this whole new like sensory experience as well, and different textures for them to touch. So I think it's really fun.
I wanted to add too that even as you're describing your cleanup from your yard, it's branches, cutting the branches, and then the branches become tools for mixing, for eating, whatever it is. It can be a fork and knife. It's just open-ended materials. So again, nature in itself is so open-ended, and it's not a specific thing that we're saying to the children, this is going to be your rice, or this is going to be your bread. It's totally left up to the children's imagination. And that's what's so beautiful with using those open-ended materials.
Yeah, I love that.
April, the natural herbs that you used, like lavender and lemongrass, all those, they also help keep the bugs away as well.
That's a good idea. Yeah, I love that. Yeah, I just got ordered a seed donation from High Mowing Seeds, is a seed company here in Vermont, but all seed companies, or I don't know about all, but many seed companies, if you go on their websites and look for seed donations, it's often, I had to pay shipping for these, but it was really inexpensive, and the box arrived, and I'm like so excited because there was a lot of variety of things to plant. And I feel like, creating that yes space in the area where the kids are playing so that they can pick it and have the boundaries, like Sue was talking about, like they're not picking the daffodils right now. It's like we can set those boundaries for kids so that they, we can use plants for play, and like Victoria said, we can also teach them, how to do it, pick plants kind of responsibly. Kathleen, you had your hand up and then it went down. So I don't know if it just timed out or if you.
No, I wanted to share.
Okay,
just
perfect.
a second. I'll be just a second. I just had a call, but I will be ready to share the literacy.
Okay. Okay, awesome. And let's see. There was a really interesting in the notes. There was an interesting section about water conservation. I don't know if someone wants to chime in there, or I could just kind of read it if someone doesn't necessarily want to share. But I thought it was some interesting notes there. In the notes, the person or the group that was talking about water conservation was the family childcare. So some ideas that they had were using stoppers in the sink if they're using running water, so that the stoppers is, it's collecting the water so that kids can, play with the water with it, not just all draining out, or putting buckets under the sink so that they could save and reuse the water, or to use rain barrels. So rain barrels are unique in that it collects rain, but it's a closed system, so you don't have to worry about that risk of drowning, and you don't have to worry about mosquitoes. The way rain barrels are, I don't know how they do it with screens or something, but it's supposed to be designed in a way that they keep mosquitoes out. And then if you are using a hose, use it as that teachable moment, like how much water are we going to use, about, how we spray each other off, filling and emptying things. And then, also learning consequences, like what happens if something is filled up to the brim. But I do think that we have this opportunity to teach conservation, like we can use water for play and we could teach about conservation. So maybe, if we know that tomorrow's going to be a rainy day, maybe we do set out some small pans to collect water. And I find that kids get super excited about that. And then it's like those affordances that they find, like, oh my gosh, we have a little bit of water here. What can we do with it? So thanks for those notes. I think thinking about conserving water, I think, is an important one. And in times where I know there were some programs here in Vermont that were a couple of home providers that were experiencing or having a really negative impact from drought. And so in those times, in times of drought, then obviously we wouldn't be using water in that way because we have to conserve it. So we'd have to come up with some other strategies.
And April, I'd like to add to is quickly is also, if you've got a container, then this is the container that we use today, not giving a whole supply of water continuously. There must be in times like that, a cutoff. Just like how you say to children, okay, you can't eat all the food today because it needs to serve for the week. This is the same concept for them to learn. Wait, the patience.
Yeah, I love that. And let's see. Okay, the in the chat, I'm going to drop the link to the attendance. So there's a Google form that you're going to fill out, and you're going to write your name, and it's like a confirmation that you were here. And so there's just a couple of questions. If you are, and we're going to continue, we're going to go up until 8 o'clock, but I want to put it out there so that you can, do the things that you need to do in order for attendance to count. And let's see, we have Kathleen, you have your hand back up, so you must be ready. Oh, Jill, that's interesting. Jill in the chat shared, service berries or Saskatoon shrubs are perfect for your mud kitchen. It flowers in May and it has edible berries in June. That's interesting. I'm not familiar with that, service berries.
You know, I clicked on the link and the link isn't working. I sent you a screenshot of what it told me.
Oh, okay, hold on.
And someone else's.
Okay, all right, wait, hold on just a second. Just pause for a moment here. Let me see what I've done wrong. Wait. I think because maybe I was still in it. Hold on, let me just see. And this is why we send it out a little bit early so we can figure out our problems. Okay. Okay. Oh, there's a big giant red button. Okay, hold on. Let me drop it's going to be the same one, but I just reset it and that was my fault. One moment, everyone. It feels like Black Friday shopping, like, oh, hop on the thing. Okay, I think this one will work. Let's see. Kathleen, are you ready to share? You're on mute.
Sorry, I was trying to do the thing at the same time. So we did literacy connections, and some of the things that we said were to have a stick or tool for letters and numbers for practice of writing them in the mud or around the mud, have a small chalkboard for writing. We were thinking having laminated cards, they'd be recipe cards with titles like stone soup, and it'd have the recipe like 6 round rocks, 3 twigs, whatever on there, and have them laminated. Rocks with engraved letters on them. You could also, I would suppose, painted, they just wouldn't last as long as engraved, I guess. Small clipboards, which kids absolutely love, the tiny clipboards. That would be something you'd have to bring in and out, obviously, because you couldn't leave it outside because it wouldn't work very well. But kids just love writing on those things. Laminated storybooks, if you take a book apart and laminate it and then put it back together. The alphabet Play-Doh stamps, you can get those stampers for Play-Doh, and then they could make their mud pie and then stamp whatever word or name they want to put in there, or whatever letters. Laminated cards with common outdoor items with the names. So for example, fern, there's a picture of the fern and then it says fern underneath. And they could be on a flip ring so that they could look around for them. Having a shopping list, which would be like a scavenger hunt in the yard. It'd be laminated with item words, word names, and pictures of the items. So it'd be like, you're looking for 3 pine cones, 4 maple leaves, 3 rocks, 3 small rocks, 1 big rock. Mini books to extend the learning when inside. Our mud kitchen has, and then it'd be, the name in the picture. Our mud kitchen has, and then just to keep that theme going, and then they'd be able to take them home to increase family engagement. One of the concerns was that the space be blocked out to make sure that mud cakes aren't dumped onto grass everywhere. So when you're mowing, you're not hearing zing, zing with the rocks going everywhere.
Yes, and that is one of the things, being in at a public school, and it's my the primary place that we play is in the courtyard, and we have, you know, a developed like a nature's inspired play space there. But things like rocks is really important that we do a cleanup. And you know, because once we start mowing, you know, it definitely is one of those considerations. But I love that list. So many great ideas there. And then was there a group that did mud books? I'm not sure if there was or not, but I did drop some. Actually, I could probably pull it up on my screen. I dropped some books in there too. But I'm sure that there are additional books. Let me come over to screen share for a moment.
April, my group did mud books.
Okay, cool. And is that Belinda that's tracking?
Yeah.
Okay, cool.
So we were kind of baffled at first on what we were actually supposed to do. So we all went on Pinterest and we, not Pinterest, but Amazon, and we found some mud books that we thought would be a good fit for the programs. And we also found some books on how to make and implement stuff in the mud kitchen. I have them all written down, but I didn't know how to do the recording piece. I don't know if you want me to just take a picture of it and email it to you, and then you can add it in.
Sure.
But some of the books that we found was like Amazing Mud Cakes. You have 3 of them up there already that we have on our list, like Mud Pie and Mud. One of the ladies that was in our group said that they have Preschoolers to the Rescue was a really good book, and Compost Stew. I don't know.
Yeah. The Compost Stew one is a really fun one. I love the illustrations in that. Yeah, I can, if you send me a picture of it, Belinda, I can do that tomorrow. It probably won't be till tomorrow afternoon, but I can add them. In this picture, which I can enlarge so we can see it. These are my favorite ones. I really like this little teeny one here called the Best Mud Pie. Whoops. Where did he go? Wait, he disappeared.
Let's go back.
There he is. The Best Mud Pie. I think the character's name is Roberto. It's a really fun one where it's talking about the materials. It's a very simple read. It's a rookie reader kind of book, so it's very simple text. I love that one. The Robert Munch book over here called Mud Puddle it's a really fun one to read aloud. So I love that one. And then Mud Pie Annie is another one that I think is a sort of not to miss. So my top 3 are these 3 that are at the top here. And I listed some other ones as well. And I know it's like it's not like we have to have tons of books. Sometimes even just having one book, which I think out of these, either Mud Puddle by Robert Munch, which is much, it's a classic, you know, book, or the Best Mud Pie. Those are probably my top 2. And I know the Best Mud Pie book, I think it's like in the $6 range, like it's really affordable. So I think that's a really good one. But anybody else want to chime in on other books, children's books about mud that you like? Yes. And I will be sending, Tara asked in the chat, will I be sending the list to you? I'm going to drop more notes into the doc that we're using tonight, and I'm going to share it out tomorrow. My goal is to have it out to you by tomorrow night. I want to add a few other little things. But any other books that anyone wants to chime in?
One of the books that I found that I think I'm going to add in is called Mud Kitchen Recipes, because normally when we cook in the kitchen, we have a recipe book. So I thought maybe a Mud Kitchen recipe book would be great outside for the kids.
Yeah, that's a great idea. Yeah, I don't have that one. I think
I think I got one Muddy Chef from the lady in Australia too, but it's not the Muddy recipes. That's I don't know that one. April, do you have the Mud book by John Gage?
I don't have that. No.
I think it's a simple read too, and it's a good book, and it even had like art with mud, if I remember. I have it downstairs. I just didn't take it out.
Mud book by John Gage. Is that what you said?
Yeah, John Cage.
Oh, Cage. Okay.
Yeah, CAGE. Mhm.
Okay. Yeah, I'll check that one out. I can add that to the list. Let me see here. Oh yeah, and Karuna says she uses stone soup books to build that understanding. I love stone soup. It's such a great, if we each just contribute a little bit, then we can create, something that we wouldn't have had otherwise. And I think it has a great message. Ariel says Under in the Mud is a great book, and the children can learn about animals that hibernate. Awesome. Oh yeah, Miss Wishy Washy. That's a fun one by Joy Crowley. Awesome. Lots of good ideas there. And let's see. Let me just see and make sure I'm not missing in the chat. Okay. So hopefully you're getting you got the link. And Denise is sharing. Oh, Denise shared some soils and dirty fun. It looks like a slideshow presentation. Oh, Denise, do you want to unmute and tell us about this? It looks like a slideshow it looks like something you're going to present in May 2023. I don't know. You're welcome to unmute, Denise, and tell us about it. Awesome. Well, we want to, I just want to say thank you for being here. I feel like we've had such a brainstorm, such a great brainstorming. We have lots of information in the notes, which I will share out tomorrow, with looking at the verification for the Google form. Right now, it looks like we have 74 people that have filled that out. So if you're wanting to get a certificate, or the certificate of attendance, or the BFIS if you're a Vermont based ECE, make sure you fill out the Google form before you log off, because that's how I'm going to submit the attendance from there.
Can you send that link again, please?
Absolutely. Let me
Thank you.
It is okay.
It's still in the chat too.
Yeah, I just dropped it one more time.
Okay.
Can I
April, I Vince and I together, I think it went through.
Okay. Yeah. Do you guys both have, did you put, do you each have your own BFIS numbers or?
Yes, I put them in there.
Okay. All right. Ariel also says pigs in the mud in the middle of the road. Pigs in the mud in the middle of the road is another fun one. And there's lots of great descriptive and rhyming words for the kids to enjoy. Even just the title sounds fun to read.
Yeah, I have one similar, pigs in the middle of the muddy puddle. It's so cool, similar rhyming, and the kids
Awesome.
absolutely love it.
That's fantastic. And let's see, other questions. I think that we've covered a lot. We got the literacy, we talked about snow, we talked about the mud kitchen setup. In the chat, or sorry, in the notes, there is a section there. We had a Lone Ranger that she wrote some notes about crafting a donation letter. And hopefully tomorrow I'll have enough time to add a little bit more to that too. But I think it's a really great idea is to send home a donation letter. Either you can use it with your things that you're asking currently enrolled families for, or asking businesses or local, like even thrift stores or things like that, for donations to help build your group. Not build your group, but rather build your materials.
Mud kitchen.
Yeah, and yeah, so I think you'll love the notes, and we'll get those out, and I'll get the recording out as well. And if you have filled out your Google form, we can kind of wrap it up here, and Sue and I will hang on for a few more minutes and answer last questions. But thanks so much for being here, and thanks so much for getting kids out in the mud kitchen too.
You guys.
Thank you, April and Sue.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you so
Welcome.
much.
Thank you so
Thank
much.
you.
Thank you.
Welcome.
It was
Thank
awesome.
you.
Thank you, April and Sue.
Oh,
You're welcome.
Thank
Was
you,
I
guys.
Was I just supposed to submit my notes? Because I wrote them on paper, but I just put them on the doc as well. Will you guys get that if I uploaded it to the doc for grade school?
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah, yeah, for
Okay.
the school agers, yeah, if you put that in, I see it. So
Okay,
one,
perfect.
I see them, they're in there. You did it.
All right, awesome.
And
Thank
thanks
you
for,
guys.
yeah, thanks for doing that, Jazzy.
Of course, no problem. Have a good night, everyone.
You too. Thank you.
I just wanted to say thank you because personally, last last year I was working with 1 and 2 year olds, so we didn't have the access to the mud kitchen. So with working with the 3, 4, and 5 year olds this year, I'm just kind of like, okay, we're gonna go to the woods and they're gonna play with the kitchen and I'm gonna stand here kind of thing and do things with these other kids. And I've never really like even like every once in a while I'll go down and see what they're up to if they're not bringing it over to me to, like someone said, drop everything in the grass. So I'm sure the lawn guys blow that through. But I didn't realize how much can actually go on in the mud kitchen. So I wanted to say thank you for that because it really opened my eyes to that. And I'm like tomorrow's not a woods day, Thursday is, but today was a woods day. And I was like, oh yay, thanks for the pie. Like not really like, oh wow, it's so good. Or sometimes I'll throw in there like, oh, it's spicy and make them laugh. But like, no, I really appreciate that I now have a wider variety of looking at it now.
Awesome. I'm so glad, Amanda. That's awesome.
Yeah.
And Kim, you have your hand up.
Yes, I don't know how to get to the link to fill out the thing for the certificate.
Okay. All right.
I am not very good at computers.
That's totally fine. Kim, are you based in, where are you based out of? Are you in Vermont?
No, I'm in New Hampshire. I work in Nottingham.
Okay. And so Kim, let me just make sure I have your email and I'm going to write you down manually. Let me just hold on just 1 second.
Do you want me to handle that?
Is it K Kemp 55 and then the @ symbol? Is that your?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
I have you and I'm going to write you down manually. So we've got it.
Thank you.
You'll get an email tomorrow with it. Okay.
Okay. All right. Sounds
Thanks,
great.
Kim. Thanks for being here.
So much. That was fun.
Thank you.
Good. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
All right. All right. So if you've filled out the form, then you are set and we are going to kind of wrap it up here. But if you have a question, feel free to just unmute and ask a question. We've got 93 people who filled out the form right now. So we're got most people. And I know some people don't need it either. So that's always a thing. Oh. All right. Great. Well, Sue, thank you so much for being here. It was fun.
Yeah, it was beautiful. For me, it was so beautiful going in the breakout rooms just to hear how everyone was just coming up with ideas as to what really works and giving shared thoughts. It was beautiful.
That's awesome. Well,
Yeah.
I think we had, I don't know. I feel like at one point I saw maybe 110 was maybe the most, but some people, I got a couple of messages, a couple of people were getting like their internet wasn't working well tonight. So I don't know. I think a few people got bumped off, but we definitely had more than 100 people, which is to do breakout rooms with that many is pretty impressive.
And you handled it so well. You did so well. And it's muddy season. I think it's just so beautiful because of the change in season. What better way to welcome the muddy season than to have this?
Yeah.
And even to hear from the educators how beneficial this is to our practice. And even for those who just want to dip their feet into it, you know, like people who don't like the mud mess. There are so many options outside of the mud and the mess.
Right.
So it was really beautiful, just informative, different materials, and even the heat that comes off the composite. I had no idea.
Either. Yeah. I did.
Can I just ask a question?
Absolutely, Jody.
How do you get your BIFS number? What is that?
Oh, are you in Vermont? Do you?
No, I'm in Saskatchewan.
Yeah. Oh, you don't have one. You don't need that. Just as long as you have your email, and if you just put, that's the BFIS number is just for folks who are in Vermont. That's our system.
Oh, I see.
Yeah. But if you just leave that blank, you don't have to put anything there. And then that would be great. And thanks for tuning in from Saskatchewan.
Oh,
That's
it was
exciting.
wonderful. It was good. Thank you both so much.
We
You're
we have
welcome.
big family plans of getting to Calgary and to BC. We have
Nice.
my husband's from Montreal, so we spend a lot of time in Quebec, but
Okay.
haven't gotten further west than Ottawa, to be quite honest with you. Not yet. So, but thanks for being here.
Yes, thank you very much.
All right. Awesome. So Sue, do you have someone making you dinner tonight? Did someone? is
No,
someone-
I'm actually going to, actually going out to get something because we haven't been to the grocery store. So, am I good to go?
Yeah, you're fine.
Okay.
I think so.
Hey, good
I
night,
don't-
ladies.
Good night.
Good
Thanks for
night.
being
night.
here.
Good night.
Yeah, if nobody has any other questions, I think I'm going to log off as well. I think people, I just wanted to make sure that, oh, there's Emily. Emily, did you and Kelsey? Yeah, but Sue, we're good. If you want to log
Yeah.
off.
Okay. All right. Have a great
Thank you
evening
so
and
much.
thank you
All
so
right.
much. All right.
Yeah. All
Good
right. Good
night.
night. Emily, did you get taken care of what you need to? You're good? Awesome.
Yep.
You know, and Kelsey, I see you're with them. I was gonna say, I was hearing that you know, the waste management district that's down the street from you guys. Does Shannon still, is she still there? Do you know? Do you
I don't
ever
know. I was gonna reach out for her for Earth Week because she came last year. And the
Yeah.
kids really liked it. So I'm gonna reach out to her again.
Because I was working with the schools up in the North Country Supervisory Union, and they were saying that they will come and do a worm. They bring like composting worms, and they talk to the kids about them. And then if you want to try it, they'll leave some with you for you to like use for a short period of time. And then, you know, like some people, I think some teachers want to keep the worms and do it long term, and others just want to do it as a shorter term thing. So maybe the lady that I was talking to in North Country, she said the person to contact was Shannon at in down the street from you guys. So yeah, I don't
I'll
know.
have to email her. I have her information still. So
Yeah. Yeah. So awesome. Thanks for being here.
an unrelated question.
Yes.
Where is Sue's home daycare? Is it local?
No, she's in Illinois.
Darn it.
You wanted to go visit?
Yes. It seems so cool. Like she just seems all nature, and I love looking at them to get ideas.
I just love
Yeah.
her talking.
I
She has so
know.
much information and like great ideas and stuff, and
She
it's
does.
just awesome.
Yeah, well, she is a trainer, so she does other workshops and things. I'm not sure what's on her schedule, but I can find out from her. And, you know, send me a message, send me an email with what you'd really like to do with Sue, and I can get it to her and ask her to, you know, even maybe she could do it like in May or June, you know, this month I'm kind of maxed out, but yeah, I love her ideas.
That's
And
good.
it's neat to see her pictures too, because it's just a different.
I'm gonna go look at her website that you posted.
Yeah, and she has an Instagram too with just lots. I mean, I think her photos are both on Instagram and her website, but it's really inspiring. So I'm so glad that you guys enjoyed that. All right.
you.
All right. Well, thanks for being here.